Welcome to Baltimore, Maryland. Full of tourists, professionals, creative entrepreneurs, and cultural tastemakers. A city with a rich history that honors the past, but keeps a keen eye on the future. A fitting way to describe not only the city, but also our next destination.
All right, for today's episode, we came all the way to Baltimore, Maryland. We are at one of the country's biggest meaderies, and we're going to be discussing Mead. We're going to talk about the city of Baltimore, and who knows, things might get a little crazy. We might even shotgun a can of Mead or two. Let's go down the hatch. Well, thank you guys so much for having us out and getting to talk a little bit about Mead.
Mead. It's a unique beverage made from some of the sweetest nectar nature creates. This sweet honey wine was very popular in ancient times throughout Europe, Africa, and Asia, and it's recently started its comeback. And two guys at the front of the mead making scene in the Charm City are Mead Maker co-founder James Boycart and sales manager Austin Haynes.
So I took a beekeeping class in college.
All starts there.
And there was this one professor who was really, really famous for this one class a year he taught. It was only one semester every year, and it was a pretty small lecture class. And it was his passion. He ended up, he was the founder of the North Carolina Master Beekeepers program that they had. And I took the class with another friend, and we got so into beekeeping that we continued through like graduate level beekeeping classes, and it stuck. And I think my first taste of mead was actually in that class too. And I was homebrewing at the time, so as we got more and more into the beekeeping and sort of academic side of it, and we had access to all this honey, it was like, well, what's a college student gonna do?
Now, what's a college experience without a few too many alcoholic beverages? If you're like most people, a big part of your college experience probably featured drinking a cold beverage out of a can. And the faster you can get it down, the better. You may have heard the phrase beer for breakfast, but today, it's mead for breakfast.
All right.
Happy breakfast.
I was kidding.
That's not how you shotgun. Oh, we're not gonna shotgun?
Oh man,
I mean, we can. Let's
do
haven't
it.
shotgunned anything in.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you out.
I don't have keys on me.
Don't worry, we can all borrow Austin's.
I'll use your truck key, James.
I have to say, this is the first time I've ever.
Were you there for the first run when we shotgunned them?
Yeah, I think that's why I work here, actually.
Awesome. I don't think I've shotgunned a mead in probably 6 months.
Oh, man.
You've got me beat. I can't say I've shotgunned a Mead ever.
Well, these are totally shotgunnable. We even have a hashtag somewhere on the Instagrams for
Shotgun.
Mead by Shotgun.
My shotgun.
Get your keys back?
Won't lose these.
Ready?
I think so.
Good morning.
Good morning.
That's a great way to start a morning.
Yeah, we should do this more.
What's your elevator pitch to people that don't know Mead? People that have gone to a Renaissance fair and said, should I try that? No, I'm gonna go with the Chardonnay instead.
So the tricky thing, I think, really for us is Mead. I want it to stand on its own, first of all. So all of our packaging, like our initial branding and how to do this, were really to break away from Mead packaging such as it was at the time that we started, which was still in a lot of 375s, 750s, like wine format or liquor format stuff. And
Old-timey font.
a lot of people are getting more into mead, so that's not necessarily as big of a stigma as it was then, where everything would sit at the dusty end of the fruit wine shelf. But for us, especially doing lighter, lower ABV stuff, We really wanted it to be an everyday thing. That's why we've gone with cans. Really, the biggest goal has been to get people to perceive mead as a everyday go-to that's really awesome.
Okay.
And that's taken trying to, not just from a packaging standpoint, but also in the way that we brand it and present it to people, to get people to receive it as its own thing, as opposed to saying, well, it's a honey wine, or, it's this, but it's not this. We've found that all of our customers pretty much are craft beer customers. The wine drinkers don't tend to be as into new things. They tend to kind of stick in their ways. So for us, mead is made from honey. That's, the definition of mead. But we want it to be an everyday go-to, and we do that by getting it into people's mouths, getting people to try it and go, oh, wow, what is this? And then you say, well, it's mead. It's pretty awesome. Let me tell you more.
Has it been an educational process?
It's definitely been an educational process, and I think that even for people who know what mead is or perceive of it, showing them that it can be an everyday thing is the biggest challenge. But judging from our numbers and what we've been able to do in our territory, we've been pretty successful at that. The real trick has been, as we start to go a little bit further in our distribution, and we don't have 5 years of farmers markets to sit through in Pennsylvania, or we're thinking about doing some distro in California or Florida, like how to tell people what our brand is and what this product is in those places. Because, I would drink this in the morning on the beach. It's light. It's really refreshing. We've had some nutritional information done, and as dry as we do these, they're actually, pretty comparable to like a hard seltzer or something in terms of nutritional content.
Sure.
And they're a lot tastier.
Trust me, whether you're a beer drinker, a wine connoisseur, or, dare I say it, a fan of hard seltzers, mead is definitely worth a try.
Do you remember the first mead you ever tasted?
Like I said, I think it was actually in that beekeeping class. And
Just straight traditional?
I couldn't tell you what it tasted like. I remember
But you
that it
liked
was
it.
there, but it was enough to make me go as a homebrewer, like, maybe I should try making this myself. And I remember some of my first meads, and a lot of people were encouraging me even then, like, hey, you got to do this. Like, sure, okay, like I'll make some more. A lot, some of them were better than others, but we've learned a lot over the years, and I feel like what I'm putting out now is a lot of times what I'd prefer to be drinking in the evening. So that's a good litmus test.
If you're new to the mead world, you might be wondering, where should I start? Well, don't worry. James and Austin have you covered.
Do you guys have favorite flavors?
Yeah, so personally, I enjoy, based out of the tap room, we do a lot of smaller projects, and we do a lot of barrel aging with some of our projects. So we've done a Retire by the Fire, which is our cocoa, vanilla, and cloves. But this past year, we decided to age it in bourbon barrels and do like a small limited release for that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was incredible, and it just the bourbon has just really popped through, and it just goes great with that. But a lot of our barrel aging stuff that we've done, like offshoots, have just been awesome. We did a basil lemongrass that we barrel aged in
Gin barrel?
gin barrels.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was really cool too.
Sounds really good.
It's been a fun thing to kind of play around with, but that's kind of been it's been definitely a thing for me that I've really enjoyed. So. So we were taking care of the basil lemongrass. This we use, it's fresh Thai basil, infused for a few days. This has been one of our more popular summer seasonals. Actually, it started off as a seasonal, right? I think it then became a year-round.
Yeah, it was one of those things that we thought it might be a seasonal, and it became our, probably flagship product in a lot of ways pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely you get the you get a lot of the herbal notes to it, which a lot of our stuff obviously is we tend to go the dry route, but this is very herbally and just a really good summer pounder to just just to crush.
can
Really
attest to
crisp
that.
and refreshing.
Yeah.
Ruby Red Rose, which is grapefruit zest and whole rose buds.
You got a little in your beard still?
Yeah,
little
little. Thank you, thank you. The grapefruit zest really comes through as being that grapefruit flavor that you're going for, a lot better than like actual grapefruit juice will. And the rose adds a really nice floral. Since we're using whole rose buds, it includes both the petals and the hips.
Yeah.
So you get that kind of fruitiness that you would get from the rose hips, and the floral notes from the petals, and it's this really wonderful balance between that and the grapefruit. The strawberry ginger that we were working on this morning isn't something that's an everyday go-to for me, but it is a really wonderful product, and I really like it with Thai food. It's something that of our still meads, it's the one that I would probably be most likely to take home and enjoy with dinner. I would say that a lot of basil lemongrass and ruby red rose, also our mango camapeño, which we're almost coming into mango camapeño season. Camapeños are these little tiny heirloom chili peppers a friend of ours gets from Veracruz. And supposedly he's the only guy in the US that imports them. They're from his, sort of hometown. And the Camapeño pepper is got this little bit of nuttiness to it that is almost imperceptible in the mead, but you can kind of pick up a little bit of it with just a really refined little bit of zip to balance out the mango front end on it. And that's one of our killer summer, drinks. And I enjoy that. This, really the main they're like children, you can't say one's your favorite one day.
That's fair.
When the next day you might be in the mood for something else, but the real test is would you shotgun them?
That's the trick.
Yeah,
That's the trick.
Well, I can attest to the mango
Camapeño.
Yeah, I found those last year in a store, and I was
Nice. Yeah, it's a real interesting one. Just like it throws people kind of a curveball back.
From grapefruit to lemongrass to cocoa, vanilla, and cloves barrel-aged in bourbon barrel, you're bound to find your flavor at Charm City. But making great mead doesn't come without its challenges. Not only does it require an intricate process to develop these delicious drinks, James and his team have had to overcome some legal hurdles as well.
Well, and I know you've been working with the state on trying to get some changes to the laws. Do you want to talk about that at all, or?
Yeah,
I don't know
so
how far.
it's a really interesting thing. Like 30 years ago, as people were starting to drink more cider and stuff like, Angry Orchard and was it Woodchuck used to be a really big brand. I think they actually still are. As cider came into sort of an alternative, more beer-like format in ABVs in the, between 5.5 and 7.5 range. A lot of cider had been treated as wine previously just because nobody was really drinking it when a lot of the statutory law was made. So cider made this sort of migration over into and towards beer in terms of the way that it was distributed and taxed. And that was at a federal level, and a lot of the states followed suit. But mead is, for many states, never been defined in the statutory law. It's just been treated as wine, which is the way the feds still do it. And something like this that's 6.9% ABV and packaged in a 12-ounce can really shouldn't be taxed or distributed like a wine because it's not wine customers. The way that the retailers and the distributors sell it and move it is a lot more like beer. So without getting too far into it, at the state level, having it treated as wine here in Maryland creates a lot of really substantial issues for us trying to get it out to our customers. And We put through a bill this year to define it at the state level and allow it to be treated as beer. So there will be probably a migration over time between the people who have winery licenses, but it'll lower the tax rate and improve the distribution and make mead something much more available to people. Right. And it passed unanimously in the House, so I'm pretty happy. We may even get the governor to sign it into law, which technically he doesn't have to do because it's already going to become law, even if he doesn't sign it. But it'd be pretty cool to have the governor sign a bill that I put through.
Yeah, absolutely. Was that what happened when you went up there? When I came in, I guess you were heading up there before.
Yeah.
Was that the day they were voting?
I made half a dozen trips down to Annapolis to, through the course of this, to visit with different committees and that kind of thing. And it's kind of funny when you're in a state, in the House or Senate and you're speaking in front of this governing body, and the reaction is like, "Hey, why didn't you bring any?" Like, I didn't think this was that kind of place, but I totally invite you to come visit anytime that you are interested, and I'll give you a personal tour.
I'm sure you guys have seen the ad from a major beer company that kind of put mead down. Do you think that brought a little bit of extra light to what you guys are doing?
Maybe.
Did it backfire on them a little?
I don't really know. I mean, in some senses, like we were going, a better answer, a more qualified answer is that there are a lot of Google searches being done for mead right now, and what is beer mead or mead beer, stuff like that, which are definitely coming from that specific ad. Sure. And if that people are searching for it to try and figure out what it is, that means that people are going to try it out. So I would say that it has done nothing but help. One very interesting thing is that Budweiser or AB InBev has a like a venture, not a venture capital, but like a experimental ventures company that tries different alternative beverages out and things like that. They're actually putting out a 3.5% thing that they're not calling mead, but it's a honey-based alcoholic beverage in a can that's carbonated. And it says, they're calling it BE or something, like B, or so cool. I think that, there might be more to what we're doing right now than there has been in the past. And I don't think they're hurting us with that stuff.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's been gaining popularity over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Sure. Do you still keep bees yourself?
I still have a few hives. We would need hundreds of hives to keep up with this. Sure. So really, from a beekeeping perspective, I'm a master beekeeper, and I think it's pretty important to what we do here. So we're partnering with a number of beekeepers and beekeeping associations to try and do beekeeping classes and raise pollinator awareness. We've got this really great pollinator garden that we installed out there. And I'm waiting for that to fully come into bloom this spring.
Like so many of our other adventures here on Down the Hatch, there's just something special about getting a passionate group together, making a product they care so much about. Not only has it had an impact on its employees, but Charm City Meadworks has become a centerpiece of community in the Baltimore area.
I guess our story is a pretty unique one where it's definitely started off as James just home brewing in college, which I can imagine was a disaster at a lot of times, a lot of good parties. But it's just a really interesting, up and come, just the way it was built through, James and Andrew, over time. I met these guys about 2.5 years ago in this little, almost like how small was that place? It was a big garage.
Yeah, it was 1,200 square feet. So not much bigger than like from the door to the
Yeah.
bar in our current space.
Yeah, and that was it. So it was one of those things where I was looking to get into like a job at the brewery, but after meeting these guys and shotgunning a couple of Meads after a first canning run we did, kind of changed the direction of what I was looking at. So,
I mean, looking at the growth with it and the numbers, it's kind of a tricky thing because the business, we operate like a brewery and the margin's very small in a manufacturing business like this. But the growth tells me that people are picking this up and going, wow, what is this? This is awesome. And that's really becoming their new favorite thing. And for that to have started on the kitchen counter and turn into something where we've got 10 employees that all really care about it. We've got this great company culture. It feels very much like a family. And to have done that with a tremendous amount of bootstrapping. At this point, it's really something that I'm never going to escape being the Mead guy, even if, 10 years from now, the business burns to the ground and it doesn't feel like it's worth rebuilding. Like, people really care about this, and that's awesome. Like, you can't ever take anything for granted that it's going to happen like that. I mean, Austin's been part of that, and I'm really grateful for he and all the other people who have jumped on and said this was something worth doing.
Well, what's the community reaction been like for you guys? I mean, you guys are you're just outside downtown Baltimore. You're right kind of on the edge of neighborhoods. And
I think that people in the community, I'm pretty active with the community organization here, the Rebuild Johnson Square, and also with a lot of the NGOs and other entities that are doing work here in Baltimore. And it's been, pretty amazing the amount of support and positive feedback that we've gotten. And it's really fun being in a place where there's so many awesome things that aren't happening in the news, to be part of that and part of healing Baltimore. And it's having a business is a great way to, it's a great thing to leverage to be a better community member. So we have a team of people, and we've got, network that I wouldn't have as a, single person going out to volunteer on a given weekend. So the community reception has been pretty awesome, right down to people who, as we were fixing up the building, walking through the neighborhood, they give us a thumbs up, and they, looked like they didn't have two quarters to rub together. I mean, I think that people see things like that happening, and they're pretty happy about it.
Well, you said that, to help with the healing of Baltimore, I think that's important to say, because we all see the bad news stories about Baltimore, and I think we don't see enough of the good that is happening in Baltimore.
No, it's been really amazing to be a part of that. And one of the things that I want to do this spring, particularly as a couple of friends that are in the General Assembly are finishing up, Monday's the last day, have a few breakfast meetings with them and some other journalists and people that I know to talk about how to get the positive narrative out, because there's so many amazing things that are happening in this city right now that weren't even 10 years ago, weren't 20 years ago, that are really pushing it in the right direction. And all we've been getting in the news is, Healthy Holly, the mayor, or the issues with the police commissioner. We've had, just constant turnover. There's these very negative things that make it into the Baltimore Sun, or New York Times, that kind of stuff, whereas the positive stuff just doesn't get out, and there's got to be a way to fix that. But it's an awesome city with a lot of good bones, and that's why we're here.
Would you do it all over again?
You can't take anything back in life, I care a lot about this and what we do here and the friends that I've made and the product. I'm still really excited about it. there's a few things that maybe I would have changed, but everything in life, you can't separate the good from the bad. It just is, and it feels very much like I'm meant to be here still. So, ask me again in 6 months. I don't know. Some days are better than others, but you got to be willing to accept that and be happy with it.
Yeah. Well, cheers to that.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time we go down the hatch. Thanks for watching Down the Hatch, and don't forget to subscribe so you can be notified any other time we go down the hatch.